Hi guys, how are you doing? This is Sebastian from Tech Century and welcome to my long-term review of the Apple iPhone 6 after using the smartphone as my daily driver for over 2 months. So first off, let's take a look here at the price and availability of the iPhone 6. And for this comparison, I'll just use the MSRPs from apple.com. So you might be able to find the smartphone a little bit cheaper on Amazon, for example. But the 16GB version starts in the US at $649 and the same configuration retails here for 699 euros in Germany. Also, of course, there's a 64GB version for 100 euros or $100 more, and also a 128GB version of this smartphone available. Now, in my opinion, the iPhone 6 off contract is just incredibly overpriced, and I would have never paid 799 euros here for the 64GB version. So I think it basically just makes sense to pick up such an iPhone if you actually get it heavily subsidized on a contract, and that's also what I did. Now, moving on with the design and build quality, I have to say that I really like the design and also build quality overall. The aluminum construction just feels great in the hand and really reminds me also of my HTC One M7, which was actually the smartphone that I used before the iPhone 6. And I have to say the only real flaw in terms of the design is actually the protruding camera, which I don't like at all. But then again, it's not really an issue if you actually use a case, which I'm doing all the time anyways. Now, just to address quickly the bending issues, so far I haven't had any problems with it at all. So I always used the phone in a case and it's absolutely fine. Now, talking about the display, I feel like the iPhone 6 screen is the perfect size for me. 4.7 inch is great to still hold it in one hand. And of course, this is also the same size that you find, for example, on the HTC One M7, which again was my previous phone. So I was very used to that size and I really like it here on the iPhone 6. Now, the resolution with 750 x 1334 pixels isn't really the highest, it's just above 720p. But still, coming from the HTC One M7 that actually has a 1080p display, I didn't really notice any pixelation, so that's always good. And overall, viewing angles are absolutely amazing and the color reproduction is also great. Looking at the CPU and performance, we find the A8 processor here in the iPhone 6, and it's actually still a dual-core chip. So in times where we actually already find quad-core and even octa-core chips in some Android flagships, we still only have a dual-core. But despite the fact that we only have 2 cores, it still performs excellent, not only in benchmarks but also in games like Real Racing 3 that are very intense, and also of course all regular tasks like web browsing and launching apps are no issue at all. Continuing on to software, we find iOS 8 pre-installed here on the iPhone 6. And most important to me by far is the support of third-party keyboards, just like SwiftKey, which I use daily. And of course, the swipe functionality is a game changer, especially if you used it once on an Android phone. It's something that you don't want to miss. And also one major reason why I was even really willing to switch back to iOS, because we now have third-party keyboards, because I just don't really like the regular keyboard that we find in iOS 8 that's made by Apple. Overall, I would say iOS 8 is a decent upgrade over previous versions of the OS, but it's not flawless by any means. We still have apps crashing, some apps aren't optimized, and for me also the hotspot didn't always work, and also the wrong keyboard is showing up at times. So the Apple keyboard is showing despite the fact that I actually disabled it and only enabled SwiftKey, so that's also weird, but overall again, it's a decent upgrade. Moving on to the cameras, this is probably one of the strongest aspects here of the iPhone 6, and overall the camera is just very impressive, especially in comparison to my previous phone, the HTC One M7. The resolution is 8 megapixels, so the pictures still look great even on your computer and not only on the display of the smartphone itself. And on top of that, the autofocus is insanely fast. In fact, it's so fast that when I took the phone out of the box, I didn't even notice it refocusing. So that's great to see as well. And also, if you have it only in one hand, the focus just works without you even tapping the screen. So that's great to see as well. On top of the great photo quality, we also get impressive video features like 240 frames per second slow motion video, which is great to just show off to your friends, and also overall great video quality in regular 1080p at 60 frames per second. So here we are now with the front-facing camera on the iPhone 6 in basically the same situation as I recorded the intro and also the outro, and I think the quality is still very nice even though it's only 720p, now of course even upscaled to 4K, but still the quality is very nice for a front-facing camera. Now I'm not one to take selfies, but for videos it's definitely great to see, and also the audio quality is quite impressive as well. Now in terms of battery life, I have to say I didn't really expect much from the iPhone 6 because previous generations, at least for me, had absolutely terrible battery life, and I had to recharge them at least twice, maybe even 3 times a day, because I'm a fairly heavy user. But that's actually an aspect where the iPhone 6 was a big surprise. In the 2 months of usage, there were probably like 3 or 4 days where it didn't last me the entire day, but that were like really long days and special days. But in general, it always lasts me a day, and I usually even have 30 or 40% of battery charge left. So I'm very impressed with the battery life here on the iPhone 6, and of course on the iPhone 6 Plus it would be even better. Other highlights here of the iPhone 6 for me certainly include Touch ID, which is absolutely flawless integrated and always recognizes my fingers instantly, and it just makes downloading apps and logging into apps like Evernote and Google Drive incredibly convenient. And on top of that, it also adds an important layer of security. Now I have to admit that I never used the pin unlock or pattern unlock on my previous phones because it was just too annoying to always input this information. So Touch ID is certainly great for me because it just takes no time and it's just as easy as sliding your finger across the screen. Another surprising highlight for me was the speaker on the iPhone 6. And especially considering the fact that it's still only a mono speaker and then it's placed at the bottom of the phone, which isn't really the best location, I was very surprised not only by the sound quality but also by the volume. And so far I have to say it wasn't really a big downgrade coming from the HTC One M7 with the dual boom sound speakers. So I have to say I was very impressed with the speaker, and I never really expected it to be that good. But now let's actually get to my verdict here of the iPhone 6. Overall, I have to say I'm very happy with the smartphone and I never regret my decision to buy one. The 4.7-inch screen has the perfect size and also looks amazing. The speaker is surprisingly loud and Touch ID makes everyday life a lot easier, having to worry less about password and pins. Now the best aspect for me of the iPhone 6 is the camera. It's absolutely nice to know that even if you have only one hand free, that you can really capture moments with your friends and family and barely ever have any shot that's out of focus, so that's quite important. And on top of that, having just 64 GB of local storage on the phone plus photo stream is also very nice to have. So if you're thinking about purchasing the iPhone 6, I can just highly recommend it. I'm very satisfied with the phone, and the solid build quality, great design and the amazing camera really make it a worthwhile purchase for me. And this will also wrap up my review of the iPhone 6. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the iPhone 6 as well as my review in the comment section down below. And I'll also make sure to be there to answer any questions that you guys might have. If you enjoyed the video, it would also be great if you could hit the like button. And of course, subscribe to the channel for many more reviews and other tech videos in the near future. My name is Sebastian from Tech Century, and this was my full review of the Apple iPhone 6.